guys, welcome back to my channel. If you like this makeup look, I just filmed a no makeup look, and it should have been posted before this one. And it's also just like how to look put together or how to feel put together during this quarantine time, and just like some beauty tips and just self-care tips and stuff like that. So if you want to see that, please check out the link below. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming. This video is going to just be how to save money and budget for anything. It could be for a house like I did. Well, I don't have a house, I bought an apartment. So my goals were to save for a nice down payment so that our monthly payment on the home could be much less. It could be for anything. It could be for a car, it could just be for like life savings, emergency savings, everything. So these are just some very general tips, and I'm very, very passionate about personal finances. And so yeah, if you have any questions or if you want me ever to elaborate on any of this, I'm more than happy to. I'm not an expert. Keep that in mind. I'm not an expert on anything. So these are just my tips. So we can get started. The first thing, probably the most obvious for how to save money, is going to be to create a savings account. So this is going to be separate from your general checking account. And ideally you would do direct deposit. So when you get your check-in for whatever job you do, automatically you can put a certain percentage into your savings account, and that's like untouchable. It's already taken out automatically. You don't have to worry about it. So I would definitely set that up to be automatic. But that number of what that savings amount is going to be is going to vary depending on your budget and what your lifestyle is currently. But hopefully these other tips that I give you can help you make that number a little bit bigger. So the first and foremost thing that I would do is work on paying off all your debt, because if you have debt, then that means you're adding monthly payments to your just monthly budget. So even if something, let's say you bought a bag or something or whatever, or a phone, that's going to be like an additional $20 a month. That $20 a month can go into your savings if you just would have gotten rid of it. So I would work on actually probably trying to save up a big chunk of money to pay off all your debt and kind of get that squared away, and then tell yourself you're not gonna do monthly payments anymore, because the reality is if you have to do monthly payments, that means you probably couldn't afford the item anyway. So unless if it's like an emergency situation, I probably wouldn't recommend any sort of payment plan or anything for general everyday purchases. Along with that would just be very, very careful with credit cards. I personally have two credit cards. I have a joint one with my husband, then I have a personal one that I've had since college. And hold on, I have something in my eye. And just be very careful with your spending on that, because I find with plastics or with credit cards, it's very easy to just kind of go over, or just like it doesn't hurt as much to pay for something, because you're not physically seeing those dollars being taken out of your wallet. So just be mindful of your spending and making sure you're only spending what you can pay back at the end of the month, because then interest and everything kind of plays on top of that. And if you have a crazy high interest rate on your credit card, you're actually spending a lot more for the items that you were buying with that credit card to begin with. So it just becomes more expensive in the long run. So just be very mindful of it. I'm not saying credit cards are bad or not to have them. I'm just saying be mindful of it. And a credit card is not an emergency fund, if that makes sense. Like, you should have a savings account with cash for it, not your credit card's emergency fund. I feel like a lot of people get that misconception of what credit cards are. Credit cards are not like additional free money. It's just this like virtual money that's going to help you with long-term credit history for, when you want to buy a home or a car or whatever. It kind of gives you a better rate. So there's that. Some of these are like pretty small things. It's just when you're going shopping, create a shopping list. This is My nose is itchy, I think, because I just did my makeup and I feel like the brush hairs kind of go into my nose and my face. Create a shopping list. So this is something very easy to forget to do, or just like be lazy. You just kind of feel like you trust your memory more than anything, which I always end up leaving things behind, or I buy too much of the stuff. So before you go into the store, just like take a look at your inventory and just make a list. Also, and on top of that would be just like meal planning. So that's really easy. I'm not a fan of meal prepping because I do like variety with my food, and I also don't like cooking everything ahead of time just because I like my food relatively fresh. So I only cook for 2 meals at a time. So if I cook dinner tonight, I'll cook enough for a batch for tomorrow for dinner, or it could be a lunch for the next day or something like that. So I'm really big on meal planning. So for meal planning, you just kind of take a look at your week to see what do you want to make that week. And then you write the ingredients for that. You look into your kitchen to see what you do already have, what you don't have, and try to get ingredients that you can like actually use over and over. For example, you can do like spaghetti meatballs, and with that ground beef or ground meat, you can also do a burrito bowl or something like that the next day. And that can actually help you save money. Like if you're trying to do something innovative every single time you cook, then that kind of gets expensive. And if you're also using like fancier ingredients or ingredients that aren't so common in other meals, then it's probably not worth it. Just try to keep your meals like super simple and straightforward, so that you're actually reusing a lot of them over and over. That's a big one. And you can actually buy those particular items that you do buy it over and over in bulk, so that you don't have to constantly keep buying them. And on top of that, like look into store brands. So I know that for BJ's, that's our wholesale food supermarket or whatever that we use, and we also love Trader Joe's. Both of those have like really great store brands. Like save a couple dollars. It's not that much, but it adds up in the long run. Another thing that I didn't necessarily have this problem is just making your own coffee. I don't really drink coffee, to be honest. To me, coffee is more of a treat because I like very sweet coffees and like caramel type drinks or mocha lattes and things like that. So it's definitely much more of a like dessert, and I have it probably once a month. Even sounds too common. Like I'm just not really into coffee. And also coffee can give me anxiety if I have too much in excess, so I don't really like that jittery feeling. But if you do like coffee and you have it on a daily basis, just try doing it at home much more, and like kind of perfect that coffee recipe that would make you excited when you wake up in the morning. Because going to Starbucks and coffee shops, while they are great and the experience is great to just kind of get out the house, and it does feel like a treat for yourself, when you're in this cutting phase of trying to save money, it's not the time. I'm reading my notes here, sorry. Another thing is limit going out to eat and takeout. I think that's an obvious. I live in New York, so there's so much amazing restaurants and like such good food. We used to live in this area that used to have tons of restaurants, and like the takeout was amazing. We were actually eating out so much and like ordering in all the time, and I just didn't realize how crazy that was, like the amount of money we were spending. And yeah, just like try to limit it and like do it once in a while, especially during this like sacrificial cutting phase. Just cut it out, and maybe even do it as a challenge. Just be like, this month I'm gonna try to only order out or eat out once, and it will be much more special that way as well. Okay, so grooming, just like general grooming, is like your nails, your hair, eyebrows, and all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of doing it yourself. I also, when I was like going through this like saving money cutting phase, I didn't do eyelash extensions. I cut my own hair for 2 years myself. Right now it's too short for me to do it myself, but I used to have hair that was like almost up to my bum, and I used to like cut layers and everything all the time on myself. And I saved a ton of money. I used to dye my hair at home, did my own eyebrows, I did my own nails, all that kind of stuff. And that saves a ton of money on a monthly basis. Um, don't be afraid to say no. So you're gonna have a lot of friends, because when you socialize, a big part of that is like eating and drinking. You're gonna have to like say no, or you're gonna have to come up with other creative ways to save money. So maybe instead of going out, you can invite them to stay in with you and like play board games, and like maybe you guys can all like do a taco night or a pizza night together or something like that, and that can be so much more cost effective. And like they can bring, you know, drinks and everything also, so it's not all like you covering everything, and make it more of a group thing. And I think that that would be awesome. It's probably the most important thing, is make a budget. I should have probably started off with this one, making a budget. This was huge. So my husband and I, what we do is once a month we sit down together and we reflect on last month's spending. Even now that we're not on this cutting phase, we still do it because it's just changed our life, to be honest, and not being dramatic. But do that, and like it just opens up your eyes to see like, wow, I actually went on Amazon so much and I spent way more than I thought I did, or I ate out way too much. So, you know, based off of that, you can do your budget for, you know, the following month, and like actually have reality like guide you. So if you're like, wow, my food budget was, I spent $100, that's insane, blah blah blah, then you can cut it. Maybe next month, let me aim to do 60 or 80 or whatever it is. And $100, that's like really low for a food budget, but I'm just kind of giving an easy example. So look into minimalism. So purging your closet, cleaning it out, and having a wardrobe full of things that you love, and being so much more selective about what you bring into your closet is going to make a huge difference as well. Because I find that when my closet is like full of a bunch of stuff, full of a bunch of crap, it just makes me want to bring in more things, because first of all, I don't really know and appreciate what I actually have in my wardrobe, and I always feel like I have nothing to wear. So I'm always constantly like looking elsewhere and like trying to buy to like fill that void that's never gonna be filled. So if you actually clean out your wardrobe, assess exactly what you have, and fall in love with everything you have, be excited about your closet, then you can actually limit the amount that you're spending, because you're like, hey, do I really need this white top? Checking into my inventory of my closet, I have 2 others that probably look exactly like that. So you'll know exactly what's in your wardrobe, and you'll be so much more selective about what you bring in. And trends are fun, but trends can also be expensive. So instead of like splurging or whatever, or buying, you know, a ton of cheap trends that's going to last maybe a season, buy more things that's going to be set for the long term. Or, you know, if you really like a trend, make sure you're liking it because it's actually a part of your lifestyle, and it actually like fits in with your wardrobe, not necessarily because you want to fit in. Like at this point of this cutting phase, you have to take out what society thinks or what other people are going to think of you, because that's just not important. That's just not a good way to live. It's just, you know, living for others. It's just do it for yourself. You know that you're on this journey, and you're just gonna have to sacrifice and like cut out that spending and all that stuff too. Another big one is if you have a significant other that you do live with, make sure they're on board, and, you know, do your budgets at the same time, and making sure that you're both aware about this journey that you're on. If you're married, obviously every couple is different, but I do recommend like combining everything and like being a team. That's a very personal decision though. If you're not married, I have my own thoughts about that. I really think keeping everything separate but being on the same page is really important. But yeah, just making sure they're actually, even if they don't live with you, making sure they're aware that you're on this like, you know, journey, whether it's being debt free or like just saving money or whatever. Making sure they're aware of it, because you don't want for them to sabotage your efforts or to constantly tempt you. At the end of the day, like the people that you want to be surrounded with, people who want to support you and who are not just going to try to sabotage everything that you've been working hard for, especially if it's something you're passionate about. Another thing is to look up just inspiration podcasts, newsletters, YouTube videos, and things like that. I'm a huge fan of Dave Ramsey. He's the person who just kind of like shifted my mindset completely when it comes to personal finance. And using his, his baby step system is what really like helped me on my journey to save enough money for a down payment and to have my emergency fund and to live comfortably. Because at the time before him, my husband and I, we both work in New York, and we both have really great careers. So our salaries, like we felt like we made a really good amount of money, but we weren't feeling that, we were constantly eating out, so we were living that lifestyle, but we had nothing to show for it. We didn't have any property. We didn't have like long-term savings goals. Like we just were like saving here and there, and saving was also an afterthought. So we did save every month, but it was more after the fact. So the good thing about Dave Ramsey is that he taught us to, when you're budgeting, you're actually planning to save, and then the extra money that you do have, that's something you can use for like extracurricular activities or just like fun stuff, or just add that to your savings. But if you're like on a debt-free journey, that's a little different. So I definitely recommend you like look him up. And his daughter Rachel Cruz has a YouTube channel that she talks a lot about saving money and stuff, and it's been great. So I definitely recommend that. Speaking of like newsletters and videos, I definitely also recommend like unfollowing, unsubscribing, muting any type of like newsletters from like stores or that like are going to tempt you, or like Instagram accounts are going to tempt you, YouTube videos and things like that. And also if you feel like you're constantly comparing yourself to someone, or like if certain Instagram or YouTube accounts just don't make you feel good about yourself, just like let that go and like mute them and subscribe them, whatever it is that you need to do. Let it go, because it makes no sense to like, this is such a positive journey, and you don't want like the influence of them to give you a mental step back. Like you should be excited about this, and like just like muting out and like removing all the noise, and just like simply stop comparing your life to others. We're all on our own journey, and we all have ups and downs and all arounds and things like that. So just keeping that in mind. Take a look at your costs for like your rent or house payments and things like that. So Dave Ramsey, he believes that your house payment should be no more than a quarter of your take-home pay, or a quarter of your pay. What my husband and I decided to do was to save money. When we first started our journey, we were living in a really nice area of Brooklyn, super close to the city, and it was amazing. And our rent was, I'll just be honest, it was $2,500 a month, including on top of that we had to add like utilities and things like that. So what we ended up doing is, when I got pregnant, we were like, that house payment wasn't affecting us like on a negative. Like with our income, we were able to afford it with the guidelines and everything. But we knew we wanted to buy like an apartment. We didn't necessarily want to buy a house yet. We believed in just kind of getting a starter apartment, just to kind of pay that off and then get some equity, and then we can like buy a bigger place afterwards. But what we decided to do is we decided to move to a farther part of Brooklyn, and it gave us a longer commute, but our rent at the new place was $1,700, and that actually included all the utilities. So on like with everything, we were saving about $1,000 a month just on rent alone. And we lived at that other place, at the $1,700 one, for close to 2 years, and we bought right after, with all those savings and like an additional with all these steps that I'm trying to like lay out for you. So definitely take a look at your housing and just see like, is this something you really need? Because rent is just money that goes down the drain every single month, and we just knew that we didn't want that. And I would love to move back to that area. I'm in a different completely part now, but I would love to live in that area again. But I do know that like our house payment is less than what we were paying on everything, on like all the other apartments that we lived in and everything. And it was great because now we know that we can pay this off ASAP and like pay it off super quickly, so that then we can, you know, buy later a bigger place or a more desirable location or whatever it is. So that's something that we personally did. That's just kind of a little bit of a personal information on my end, and I'm happy to elaborate on that a little bit more. If you guys are interested, just let me know. Look into side hustles. So especially if you're on a debt-free journey, like look into like Ubering or delivering food, YouTube, babysitting. Just like look into just other side hustles that you can do to just earn a little bit more extra income a month. Even if it's only a couple $100s, that couple $100s can go straight to your savings or straight to your debt, and that would make a big impact, you know, when you look at it in the long run. And then another big thing for me was like cutting out fantasy life purchases. So I think we all do this. You know, we buy things that we're just like, oh, like this will be awesome for, you know, if I ever go, or if I like, let me give you a better example, like my gym membership. So before I had a daughter, I was a gym rat and I loved going to the gym every single day. That was like my life. But I continued keeping that gym membership throughout my daughter's life. She's 2.5 now. I would go sporadically, like maybe once every couple months, and that expense just isn't worth it because I'm not someone who goes to the gym all the time or who enjoys making the time for that. I rather just like use my treadmill, go on walks and things like that. So as much as I thought I wanted to be a gym rat again, I think that that was just a fantasy life, and that was something that's just like not what my life is right now. Another example is like when we go grocery shopping. I love the idea of like buying things for salads and like, you know, making a salad every day and stuff. And it's like, I love that, but that's just not the kind of person I am. And like, I feel like once in a while I get into that groove and I'll do it for a couple days and then the ingredients go bad because I just don't use it every month. So that's something to definitely, you know, think about and to evaluate within yourself, because everyone's journey is different. And if you are that gym rat, if you are that salad eater, then, you know, kudos to you. But I'm definitely not. Yeah, so those are my savings tips. I know that it was like all over the place, and it was definitely very general, so I'm happy to make much more specific type of content for personal finance, you know, depending on the kind of goals you do have, whether it's like to pay off debt, to buy a home, to getting an emergency fund, or about Dave Ramsey, how, you know, his baby steps changed my life. I'm totally happy to like talk you through all that as well. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. So please comment, rate, like, subscribe, and yeah, let me know if you have any other requests or questions. Bye guys.